Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 270. This episode is almost entirely made up of Ask Zach questions. Remember, you go to patreon.com/Zach Schomler. Allows you to answer questions to submit questions on Patreon. I look at every single question with my eyeballs. I do not guarantee to read your question on the show, but I do guarantee to look at every single one. I pick the top ones and read them on the show. I do want to start today, though, with something that is not a question from Patreon. My dad sent me a story. The Saints are renting a hotel to create a kind of an optional team bubble for training camp. And it's actually, I'm hearing, it's not optional. It's a bubble-like atmosphere, they call it. They call it a sequestering. That's what Saints coach Sean Payton told NBC Sports. They're renting 4 levels of a hotel. The owner, Gail Benson, is willing to fit the bill and pay for that. Again, it is not mandatory. That's weird to me. I don't understand why the NFL doesn't have 32, each team should have a bubble, in my opinion. And you're asking them, the NBA is doing it really, really well. And I don't understand why it's so crazy and insane, because players push back like, we don't want to stay all through training camp in a hotel. It's like, why not? You spend your whole day at the football facility. You really don't spend very much time at home during training camp. I don't really understand. I get it. You want to see your family, but also, do you want money to pay for your family? The amount of people that are pushing back against having a bubble, I don't quite understand that. Maybe that's because I'm a workaholic and I work all the time. And even when I'm at home, like my time I'm not working, I'm sleeping. But I think that's what the NFL training camp is very similar. Like, you don't spend a lot of time at your house during training camp. You're at the facility all day, meetings all day, training, eating, doing stuff. I just don't understand why we're not seeing a story where every single owner in the NFL has rented out an entire hotel and their entire team is staying there and they're keeping everybody out, and the players go from the hotel to the facility. It seems like that's the logical step, and I don't know why the NFL, we're not seeing more of that. I want to start with a really interesting, I say interesting way too much, I think. I want to give just a massive thank you to the people who support the show on Patreon. I don't know that I've done a good enough job expressing my appreciation to you guys. You guys have, the group of people who support me on Patreon. I want to say thank you to you guys, because sports are back now. And it's like a huge emotional lift for me when I'm like, I have more stories than I know what to do with. I'm behind actually on the NBA, which is like a great feeling, because for a while there were no sports. And having sports back is like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I will never, ever forget this summer, the summer of 2020. I want to talk about sports for the rest of my life, but I'm always going to look back on that time, 2020, that summer, the summer coronavirus, where, there were no sports going on. Again, as I move forward in my career, I'm so excited for the future of Strong Opinion Sports. I'm 23 years old. I have over 150,000 subscribers. That's crazy. A successful podcast, an amazing fan base. You guys are phenomenal. You guys are so kind and insightful, and I love doing a show with you guys. And it's really going to be fun to see where things go in the next 5 years. Like, where are we in 5 years for Strong Opinion Sports? I think it's going to be crazy. It's really big. But this summer 2020, man, I talk about sports for a living, and there were no sports. There was nothing to talk about for a while, and I had to get creative, and coronavirus canceled everything. And straight up, man, I took a massive financial hit. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. There were no sports. There were fewer views, fewer listens because there were no sports. Advertisers also paused a lot of their, they paused and held their breath. And really the thing that kept me afloat during the height of the coronavirus pandemic, when there were no sports at all, was Patreon. You guys that support me on Patreon financially made it possible that I'm still here today, still doing the show. I just want to say thank you so much. Starting Ask Zach, making a Patreon account, saying, hey, it's $1 a month. That really saved the show. That saved this podcast during that time. Patreon is my most stable income. And I looked this morning, I have 438 people that support me on Patreon. That's unbelievable. And I just want to be very clear. I'm so grateful to you guys. It's you 438 beautiful human beings that make it possible for me to do this and that got me through that time and helped me survive with income. And I just want to say thank you for helping me survive the worst financial period of my entire time being self-employed. It was close. I got a credit card, and I had to make a minimum payment, and I had a little bit of savings, thank goodness. But bills were scary. And now that sports are back, I just want to say thank you so much for helping me get through that time. It meant a lot to me. At least the NBA is back. There's Formula One racing. That's back. But yeah, and I'll say I'm not sure how long baseball is going to last. And I don't know if college football is going to happen. I don't know if the NFL is going to happen. I want to be clear. I am very confident that if the NFL doesn't happen, I'm going to be okay. I have learned from the past. I have made some small changes behind the scenes. And with so much going on and everything, I've got a plan in case that if something ever goes wrong again, and if there is a break from sports, if everything got canceled tomorrow, I'd be okay to get through it, I think, because I've changed some stuff. I also have a personal channel, Zach Schomler, now, that I'm putting content on. And but I want to just say that summer 2020, a global pandemic, no sports. I was getting real creative to try to come up with topics and try to survive. And I was probably really in my I was in my most vulnerable position I've ever been in as a small business owner. And I just want to say thank you so much, because you guys on Patreon, you saved me. You made the show possible. And I cannot thank you, beautiful human beings, enough. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I'm grateful. I love my job. And I do my job because you guys supported me on Patreon through those couple months when it was really dark and there were no sports. So thank you so much. I just want to be clear. I don't think people in my industry say thank you enough, and so I want to say thank you to you guys. Thank you so very much for your support. Okay, again, today is an Ask Zach episode. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. My goodness, a massive amount. Really good stuff. The first question of the day, if I can find it on my phone, the first question of the day is from Edward. Edward writes in, he says, how has doing Strong Opinion Sports matured you as a person? Man, I've learned so much doing SOS. This is my career. This is my craft. This is my career, and I've grown up a lot during the process of doing the show and building the show. I mean, countless things. I'm going to list a bunch of stuff. I'm probably going to miss things. Like who you are matters, for example. Who you are as a person, the way you treat people, the things you say. I think the show has made me kinder and made me, athletes are coaches. Or what do I say? Athletes and coaches are people. Athletes are people. Coaches are people. Honestly, sponsors are people. Fans are people. Fans of sports are people, I mean. People listening to the show are people. SOS is a show about human beings, and those human beings are just affiliated with sports, but it's really a people show. I talk about human beings for a living. And in doing so, it's really kind of, I think, made me a lot more empathetic. And it's so important to be fair. Like, it is so important to be fair when you talk about other human beings. And people make mistakes. Even if someone does something really stupid or says something that they just cannot say, maybe they thought they were doing the right thing. They're a human being. And I am far from perfect. It would not be fair of me to be super harsh to people when they make mistakes, when I'm also a person who makes mistakes all the time. And so I believe it is super important to say that there are two sides to every single issue. And it's so easy to forget that. It's so easy to forget that we're people. We make mistakes. And I just, that's one of the important things I've learned. I've also learned that, why? Asking why is such an important question. Trying to understand both sides of every issue is important. Even if you disagree, empathy matters. That statement I made. People, we talk about human beings a lot. And the show has made me more responsible in every single way, where I care about what I say. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to offend people. And not in a way like I'm tiptoe, but I know that you can say the same thing one way that hurts people, and you can say the exact same words in a way that maybe doesn't hurt people. And I'd rather, if I can, say things in a way that doesn't hurt people and allows for conversation, allows for dialogue, rather than closing a door on people. Again, I'm more responsible in every way because of Strong Opinion Sports. My work ethic, I sleep, how I eat, what I say, even off the show, I pay attention to. I've kind of made myself into let's be honest, I'm kind of a public figure now. And there's responsibility that needs to go with that. If you have to have care. You have to be responsible. And I try to be a good example with my actions, with what I say. And it's less about big stuff and more about the small things. Some of the most important stuff I've done is simply encouraging people to enjoy their lives. Hey, by the way, smile, go swimming, watch a movie, read a book, play video games, hang out with their friends, enjoy your life. I mean, that's such an important message that I think I took a long time to learn and long time to understand that that's important to value. And I really hope that people do value that. When you watch sports, have nachos, right? Hang out with your friends, talk to your dad. It's so important that people enjoy their lives. And I am not perfect, but I'm trying to be a good example. I care about that. And I own my mistakes, and that's so important, man. You got to own your mistakes. And I love my show. I am so in love with my show. It's the most fun I've ever had. It's also the hardest I've ever worked. I've never worked harder on anything than I have building Strong Opinion Sports. I honestly wonder if what would have happened in my football career as a quarterback in high school if in high school I had worked the way I work now with Strong Opinion Sports. What would have happened if I was as focused as I am now and worked as hard as I do now? When I was in high school years ago, I thought I worked hard. I look back now and I go, bro, you thought you worked hard. You had a girlfriend, you played a lot of video games, there were moments where I can't remember the last time I watched a TV show, literally, because unless it's basketball, but that doesn't count in my opinion, that's work. I've sacrificed way more for Strong Opinion Sports than I ever did for football. I mean, I really put everything on the line here, and I get I was a kid and I learned from my failures and I learned from my mistakes as a quarterback. But when I was in high school, I did not work nearly as hard as I do now, and I'm very, very proud of the way I work, and I'm proud of the long nights, and I'm proud of the hours watching basketball, trying to understand how the Phoenix Suns beat the LA Clippers. I just got to know. And I also want to say I've got amazing people around me, as I'm just listing lessons and lessons I've learned. I don't waste time with people that suck, and I don't think you should either. Life is very short. Your time is valuable. If there are people that are awful or dragging you down or just are not positive to be around, it's okay to say, next, I'm out. My friends, my family, my girlfriend, they are all people who I look up to and people that really inspire me. And I just encourage you, pick good friends. Do not chase people. Pick good people. I really am proud that the people in my life that I'm close with are all people that I go, yeah, that dude's doing cool stuff, and that dude's doing awesome stuff, and that dude's awesome. And I don't know, man. Also, as a result of Strong Opinion Sports, I remember when I was in my dorm room in college, and I was alone, right? And it was really wild because I'd record the show. I used to do the whole, oh my goodness, that whole yell, right? And I'm in this dorm room with really thin walls, and I know every person above me, below me, next to me, and across the hall can hear me doing that. And they hear my mistakes. They hear me screwing up. I'm sweating. It's hot. I had no air conditioning in my stupid little dorm room. And the room I'm recording in now is bigger than my entire dorm room. It's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I used to live and have my clothes and everything. All my possessions in the world were in this little dorm room I used to record in. Go back and watch. I mean, it's insane to me. And I guess I care way less now what people think. And that's what the show has done for me. I had to learn how to not care what people think because people are walking through the hallway and I'm recording a podcast yelling about Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. And I know that when I was a kid, I was afraid of being different. I used to be so afraid that people would find out I was a little bit different. I was like, oh no, I want to be cool, man. I cannot afford to be different or weird. And I started succeeding in life a little bit when I actually embraced my weirdness and I embraced the things that made me different. And I encourage you to do that too. Everybody's weird. There's like, I say quote that, weird people are just honest people. And, the quote, weird people, they're just honest. And who cares if the, quote, cool kids at school think you're weird? Screw them. Why does their opinion matter? They probably are negative and hate their lives anyway. Like, for me, being successful is not just about how you're doing monetarily or how much other people feel about it. You're successful when you're happy and you enjoy what you're doing. Like, if I'm self-employed for the rest of my life and I always live paycheck to paycheck, but I have the time of my life and no one can tell me what to say and advertisers can't control me and I make content I love, and every single day I look in the mirror and go, this is awesome, man. You're killing it, Zach, and you like what you're doing. That's a massive, massive success. I'm very willing to have financial losses to do content I like and make a quality product that I care of and I believe in. And, my brother died in 2016, 4 years ago. I'm going so long on this. And I guess maybe that you listen to Ask Zach this episode because you want that, I would assume. 4 years ago, my brother died, and suddenly life seemed so short. And maybe next week, a meteor is going to hit Earth, and we're all going to die. Or maybe a global pandemic takes us all out. Or maybe there's nuclear war. Or you never know. Like, we get nuked to oblivion. And I just know that while I do try to responsibly plan for the future, like, you have to have, I think, a general plan to take care of yourself and long-term be okay. But I also know that I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to smile. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to not care if I seem weird. I'm not going to worry too much what other people think about me. I'm going to go to the river and float the river with my girlfriend. And I'm going to try to be a good person because I don't know that God exists, but I do think that if God is real, then God would approve of the way I live my life, because I really am proud of how I live my life, and I try to live my life in a good way. And I guess all you can do is your very best. That's all I could do. Work hard, enjoy your life, treat people well, surround yourself with good people. Do not put people that suck around you. You can do better than that. Those are just some of the many, many things I've learned and the ways I've grown up in my time doing Strong Opinion Sports. Edward, thank you for your question. Really thought-provoking, really interesting. I loved answering it. That's the kind of stuff that I love doing. So, Edward, thank you so much. Those are, I'm sure there are more, and we could do a part 2 someday down the road if anyone ever asks for more of that. But those are some of the things I've learned doing Strong Opinion Sports. Preston writes in. Preston says, hey, Zach, do you have any basketball shoes? And whose shoes? I think he means, like, are they Derrick Rose's, or are they Jordans, or are they LeBron's? Yeah, I have 2 pairs of basketball shoes. One is an old pair of Derrick Rose's that I got in high school. I stole them, actually, in high school. I hate to admit that. My family was very, very poor. We were homeless at one point. I lived in a mobile home, slept on the floor in high school, my second high school. And I think someone left these out somewhere. I think that's what happened, like in a locker room somewhere. And, thinking about it now, I feel so bad because I was super poor and I stole a pair of shoes from someone who might have also been super poor. Like, maybe the kid who I stole these shoes from could not replace them. And maybe, like, this was his only pair and he didn't have them. I've always thought that. I've always felt weird about it, especially now reflecting on it. I don't know, man. Maybe he saved up and bought them for himself. That's even more sad. I don't know. I grew up in Southeast Portland, like the poorer area of town in Portland. And, my parents' friends literally were drug dealers. I'm not exaggerating. I had friends whose parents would partake in activities that probably are not acceptable to say on this podcast with us, because they were like, oh, like, that's what we do. And I was around that life a lot. And, the area of Southeast Portland, I went to David Douglas High School. And I'm so glad I grew up the way I did, honestly. It taught me a lot. There's nothing sadder than a kid who doesn't have enough growing up, but also I think that it can toughen you up. I mean, a kid who's hungry at night, or a kid who doesn't have a notebook, or a kid who needs shoes for basketball and doesn't have shoes, it's sad. It's really not cool. And I hope if I have kids someday that they always have enough and they're always taken care of. But you have to acknowledge, man, that people from my childhood area, people who oftentimes didn't have enough, they're either like in gangs, or they're strippers, or they work at Walmart. But some of those people are in the NFL, or they are studying how to make fake lungs at Stanford, or they're doing incredible things. They're just well beyond. And so I think it's interesting that for some people, growing up tough can make you more resilient. As a kid, I grew up and I lived in two places. I lived in Southeast Portland, and then I lived in a mobile home in a rich suburb called Salmon Creek is where I lived. And I went to Skyview High School, my second high school. And the people from Southeast Portland have such a wide range of success, where the suburbs seemed like everyone is okay, they're fine. The people in the suburbs didn't really, I didn't connect with them as well as the people from Southeast Portland, because there's a level of resilience there that gets developed and learned, where the people that are killing it the most of anyone I knew as a kid, like the people who are just dominating life, are the people from Southeast Portland. Because they, as a kid, didn't have enough food and knew that the only way they could succeed was to get straight A's in high school and get a scholarship somewhere, or dominate in sports. And so they worked so hard in football. And I just don't know anybody who's as dominant as I do as the people that went to my first high school and had less growing up, if that makes any sense. It's crazy. I started talking about a pair of shoes, and we got here. I do have another pair of basketball shoes. I have a pair of Nike Hyper Dunks. I bought these. And by the way, that pair of Derrick Rose's, here's what's sad. I sold that pair of basketball shoes in high school. And I told you, right? I had no shoes. I needed basketball shoes. What's even worse is that they're actually 2 sizes too big. I wore basketball shoes that had a bunch of room in the toe in high school, because I still wore them. They were great shoes, but I always have wondered what would have happened if I bought Derrick Rose's, or got Derrick Rose's that actually fit me. Now, in college, I had a job. I was at Washington State University. I bought these shoes, a pair of Nike Hyper Dunks. They're purple, obviously. These are my favorite basketball shoes I've ever owned. I got them for $18 at Ross. $18. And I encourage you, if you need basketball shoes and you're poor, go to Ross. It might take you might go the first time and there's nothing there you need. And maybe the second time you finally get a pair of basketball shoes, because they're like, oh, they finally have good enough shoes. You might need to go twice, maybe 3 times before you find a quality pair of basketball shoes you want to wear. But if you want to find cheap basketball shoes that will do more than well enough, and especially I was playing rec basketball. I didn't care what color mine were, thank goodness. It'd be harder if you're looking for a basketball team and your team's red and they only have yellow shoes. I don't know. And maybe if you're at I know some high school coaches are lenient on that because they understand the background where their players are. So also, if you're can only afford a pair of pink basketball shoes and your school's red, tell your coach, hey, this is all I can afford. Is it okay if I buy them? And he might say yes. Now, he or she. And I just encourage you, go to Ross. If you need, cheaper quality basketball shoes, Ross Dress for Less is where I got these. $18 for a pair of really nice basketball shoes that I still wear to this day. If someday gyms open up again and I can play basketball someday. So, guys, those are the basketball shoes I own. Preston, thank you for your question. Really, really insightful, interesting. I can't believe we talked about socioeconomic, inequality from basketball shoes. What the heck is going on? Kenny writes in. Kenny says, hey, Zach. So I'm just now listening to episode 265 of SOS, and I got to say I respectfully disagree with you on the DC Sentinel's name. First of all, personally, I've seen a lot of mainstream sports news people chastise the temporary name Washington football team, and I really liked your take on the situation. Your duct tape analogy was great, and you're totally right that this is a good move by Snyder and the Washington front office as a temporary fix. Now, the DC Sentinel's name, we can have our differences about the name Sentinels itself. That's fine, and I respect that. But I was disappointed to see that you didn't even bring up the replacements. The football movie about a DC pro football team named the Sentinels. Personally, I think the Sentinels name is appropriate for our nation's capital, as you did point out on the podcast, because they are soldiers, basically, I think is what he's trying to say. Personally, I disagree with you that Warriors is a good name simply because of the confusion that would arise with Golden State. Yes, I know the SF Giants and the New York Giants already exist, and we make it work. Personally, I am really hoping for the DC Admirals. I think that football uniforms and the color scheme that from the Navy's B-class uniforms would look awesome. That's actually a great idea. Navy uniforms, like, I could see it, like the midship. It would look really, I could see how that would be really, really cool. Now, the white ones, not the tan ones. Oh, the white. Oh, okay. That would be cool. I am with you there. The Admirals from the Navy B-class. I know my friends in the Navy. I know exactly what that is. That would be cool. Anyway, I'm not trying to start an argument. Just want to present another perspective. Though I will say I was disappointed that you didn't talk about the replacements. Hope you're doing well, dude. Love to see the SOS is doing great. Best, Kenny from Cal. Kenny, dang, thanks for the long comment. I appreciate it. Actually, to be very clear, Kenny, I have never seen The Replacements. Never once seen the movie. I do know, I'm pretty sure that Keanu Reeves is the person who stars in that movie. Falco, was that the name? Is his name Falco on the back? Falco? I can picture like Falco. That's the name of, I think, Keanu Reeves in that movie. Never seen it. Maybe I should watch The Replacements and do a review. That'd be fun. Would you like that? I don't know. Kenny, you want me to do a Replacements review? I think I will. That's just easy content. That'd be fun. With Your Eyeballs writes in, he said, what is a team you wish had been given more of a fair shot? For example, mine would be any of the Kellen Moore Boise State teams. I know you're not the biggest stats guy, but Moore was 6-0 against Power 5 teams, throwing for 1,640 yards with a 23-3 touchdown to interception ratio. And if they'd been given a fair shake and played in the then BCS championship, I am convinced they would have at least put up a heck of a fight, and in my opinion, would have won. Okay, With Your Eyeballs. I love you, man. I love your questions. I love your comments. I think you're interesting. I have never disagreed with you more on any of the things you've written in. First of all, they did get a fair shot. Boise State got a fair opportunity, and they didn't take advantage. I mean, in 2010, Boise State lost to Nevada. They went 12-1. They beat Oregon State. They beat Virginia Tech. But you can't lose to Nevada and then complain you didn't get a chance to win the national championship. That's not how that works. You can't do that. In that year, 2010, Alabama won the national championship. You think that a team that lost to Nevada could beat Alabama? I think you're on drugs if you believe that. Now, in 2011, yes, Boise State beat Georgia week 1. I think they were like 19th in the country, something like that. And that's crazy. That's not my notes. That's off my head. I just remember that. But they played a weaker conference schedule, and they lost to an unranked, at the time, TCU was in the Mountain West Conference. They lost to TCU the same year that Auburn won the national championship with Cam Newton. Are you telling me that Boise State really got screwed over? You're telling me that the team that could not beat an unranked TCU team, that Boise State team is going to beat Cam Newton and the Auburn Tigers? I just don't buy it. And people say, like, oh, these teams are getting a fair shake. They had a fair shake to make a tougher schedule, and they didn't, because your schedule matters. And I to be clear, I love the Boise State teams. It was, Coach Peterson and Kellen Moore. I watched it with my dad. We would have nachos, just the crappy ones where you put tortilla cheese and you grate, tortilla chips and grated cheese, and you put the grated cheese on top and put it in the microwave. Time of my life doing that with my dad. But I gotta say, man, Boise State had opportunities to make a tougher schedule, and not only did they not beat a tougher schedule, they couldn't even beat their easy schedule. They lost to TCU. They lost to Nevada. Boise State would have needed to have their non-conference schedule be only Power 5 teams, and they would have needed to destroy them. I mean, if you want respect, you want a shot. If you're Boise State and you want an opportunity to win a national championship and beat a national championship. At the time, there was only 2 teams that got a chance. Now there's 4 in the playoff. But if a non-Power 5 school really wants to have a chance at the college football playoff, you got to win out. You can't lose to Nevada. You can't lose to TCU. And then you got to schedule a team like Alabama. And but you got to schedule Alabama. You got to schedule LSU. Maybe a team like Ohio State or Clemson. You got to play at least 2, maybe 3 really big, really impressive teams and beat them. And if Boise State beats, like this year, if you beat Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, and you're a non-Power 5 school, then guess what? Wow, you're going to make it into the college football playoff as long as you also win out your conference. But you got to give without a shadow of a doubt, reason for a program to believe you can win a game against a really big SEC opponent or an Ohio State or Clemson. If you're going to get put into the college football playoff and you're a non-Power 5 school, you have to dominate people and you have to have wins against Power 5 schools that are impressive. And Boise State didn't do that. So I don't think that Boise State didn't get a fair shake. They lost to Nevada. They lost to TCU. And they weren't scheduling Alabama or Texas or Clemson or Ohio State. They were scheduling okay teams in their non-conference games. So I just encourage you, if you're a non-Power 5 school and you want to get a, quote, fair shake. Now, you want to get a shake at all, you got to play the best of the best, and you got to beat the best of the best. And I know that's brutal, but if you want to seat at the big table, you got to make a harder schedule. I just do not believe that Boise State got a unfair shake. And I also think that Boise State was better off by winning. I mean, Boise State beat Utah and Arizona State in a bowl game. That's a good end to your season. Getting crushed in the national championship game by Alabama or Auburn, that's never going to be fun. I mean, they're better off knowing that we never saw that matchup. I like to fantasize. It's fun to fantasize about Boise State and their potential. They could have done this and they could have done that. And I just want to say that as someone who likes to think about that, we're actually really lucky we never got that, because if we'd gotten that, I think it would have been really, really sorely disappointed, because I think the reality, and as I have stuff, I had a stupid shoe on my hand. I was trying to figure out what's on the table. The reality is that if we actually got to watch Boise State match up with Alabama or Auburn, the illusion would have been gone. They would have got their butts kicked. And the magic, what made Boise State special, would have been ripped away, because we would have seen, when they actually play a real legit team like Alabama, it's over. Now, they had a great win. They beat, I remember Jared Zabransky, the hook and ladder, they beat Oklahoma. That was awesome. And they had moments like that. I love Boise State. But you want a fair shot, you got to beat Nevada. You got to beat TCU, and you got to schedule harder opponents. So I do not believe that it's fun to daydream. And I get it, man. I've been there. I love those teams. But Boise State had a fair shake. They just didn't take advantage of the opportunities they were given. That's why they never played in a national championship game. Not because, they got screwed over, because they didn't get screwed over. They just lost. Harsh, long, not meaning to be. Devin writes in. Devin says, "Yo, Zach. It's been a few months since I sent a question in. Been really enjoying your content recently. I'll keep this one short and just ask you, what are some of your favorite facts or subjects in space? As a fellow space lover, I would just like to hear you talk about some of your favorite space-related topics." First of all, 2 of my favorite movies are in space. I love 2009 Star Trek is incredible. I know that's not real space. It's still interesting. The Martian's good, but Interstellar is probably my 3rd favorite movie ever, behind La La Land and Star Trek. Interstellar, an amazing movie. Miller's Planet, the moment where it's the water planet. I'll never forget it. I don't want to spoil it. But if you're out there, go watch Interstellar and go watch for the scene on the water planet, Miller's Planet. Maybe it's on YouTube. Go look it up. Now, another space thing I think it's interesting. Anyone ever heard of Europa? Europa is a moon of Jupiter that's covered in ice. And scientists have found water vapor. It's disputable, but they believe there's water vapor coming off of Europa. And at the center of Europa, there is volcanic activity. And so there's belief that under the layer of ice, there's a shell of ice around Europa. The belief is that in the middle of Europa, under the ice, because there's like tidal, a moon goes around Jupiter. There's incredible tidal shifting, so magma's being moved around a bunch, and there's a lot of friction under there. The belief is that there's a gigantic ocean under the ice that's heated up by the magma at the center of Europa. That kind of stuff makes me go, I want to know. That's so cool. It's a crazy idea. That's fascinating. I love that thought. Now, there's a movie about it. It's science fiction. It's kind of crap, like silly. It's called Europa Report. There's like just watch a movie. I think it's on Netflix. But what think about that. If planet Earth goes away, could we all live on a submarine on Europa in Europa's ocean? Maybe. Would that be easier at least than trying to live just in space, period? Probably. I don't know. Fascinating, interesting, very odd. I mean, we'd at least get 3 years because a submarine can go underwater for I think 5 years without surfacing. So maybe you could do a similar thing with a submarine on Europa. Don't know. I love to think about that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff gets my mind going. It's really cool. And then number 3, the third thing I want to talk about. And I don't understand why is nobody talking about what I'm about to say? And I'm going to sound crazy. I'm not crazy. It's a real thing. I'm not some idiot hack. The U.S. Pentagon came out. And by the way, to be clear, this was reported literally in USA Today. So this is an actual real thing. The U.S. Pentagon came out and confirmed that they have possession of vehicles that are not from this Earth. What? You have vehicles. You have spaceships that are not from planet Earth. Oh, so aliens are real. That's what immediately it's like. Oh, aliens are real. And literally that came out and nobody noticed. Nobody cared. I know it's an election year. I know that players are kneeling in sports. There's a global pandemic. TikTok's getting banned. So I think other stuff is grabbing people's attention. I'm sitting here going, why is nobody talking about aliens? Aliens are confirmed. Legitimately, the Pentagon confirmed aliens and no one's even talking about it. I think part of it's because it messes up religion pretty bad. I'm at the point where, man, my threshold for nonsense is so low. I mean, I why not aliens at this point? It's I don't know. I just believe anything could happen now, and I know that my whole life I've always kind of felt like I'm in the wrong generation. I'm a little bit too early. I've always felt man, we're gonna be in space in 100 years. We're gonna do cool stuff. We're gonna I think someday if technology keeps evolving and advancing, we're gonna be like Mass Effect. We're gonna be like Star Trek. I mean, the things that you see in science fiction, the little flip phones you saw on Star Trek became a reality with the Verizon Razr, the Razr flip phones. And I know that I don't even know where I'm going. My whole life I've always felt like I'm alive just a little bit too early, and I'm gonna miss out on the cool stuff. Now I think maybe I will be alive for the cool stuff and maybe the bad stuff. Maybe my fear, maybe an apocalypse is gonna happen in my lifetime. Maybe I don't know. I honestly have no idea. It's interesting, and apocalypses are not fun to think about. But I know that space travel is. Aliens is certainly man, I'm glad what would stink is if I die and 100 years later we discover aliens. And I'm I'll never know what I missed out on, but I'll always be I bet I missed out on that. I'll know when I die and I'm 90 sitting in bed, I'm I'm going to miss out on aliens. That's sad. So I hope it happens in my lifetime because I just want to know. Maybe they kill us all. I have no idea. Space gets my mind wandering like nothing else. No, I'm not on drugs. I think it's so fascinating and interesting. And hey, Devin, I've now talked about space longer than I planned to. You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Landon writes in. Landon says, Zach, what's your favorite college football uniform? Personally, I'm a big fan of Oklahoma State's orange cowboy design. Personally, I think that TCU has the coolest uniforms in college football. Nobody seems to give TCU the shine they deserve. Every combination that TCU has is cool, whether it's the solid black or, they have blackout, which is awesome. I love if you can have black tights and black socks and all black shoes, it looks so cool. They have gray camo at TCU, which is unbelievably sweet. They have an all white, really clean look. The whiteout's beautiful. They have this gray or black uniform that has like purple and red accents. Oh, it's really sick. It's like the coolest uniform in college football, that one. TCU's uniforms, for whatever reason, are so underappreciated. The classic purple pants, purple helmet, black jersey is really cool. And I just think that their uniforms are underappreciated. When I design uniforms on Madden, I play Madden 11, and I design uniforms all the time. I often copy TCU because I love how they look. And if you ask me who has the coolest uniform combinations in all of college football, in my opinion, it's TCU. I know that's weird. I've only been to Dallas one time, but they're the team that I just always go, you know what? Once again, TCU, you look really, really sharp, and you never miss. Clutch God writes in, oh, Clutch God, he says, hey, Zach, do you think that some championships or Super Bowls are worth more than others? For instance, I hear many people say the ring from Dirk Nowitzki's insane title run or upset in the 2011 season is worth more, quote, than one of KD's 2 rings with the Warriors, legacy-wise, because of the journey and the challenges faced during the run. Do you agree with this idea, or do you think championships are championships and we should hold them all in the same regard? I really, really hate when people diminish other people's success. It's awful to me. I don't care who you are. If you win a championship, you earned it. That's a really stinking cool thing to do. Nobody accidentally wins. Nobody does. People say sometimes to me that I got lucky with my podcast or that I got lucky on YouTube. I quietly hate those people. I hear them say that and I go, mm-hmm. And in my head I think, never talking to this person again. Get the heck out of here. Because I work my butt off, and building strong opinion sports is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. And I hate, because of that, because I feel sometimes people diminish my success. Because of that, I really, really hate when I watch other people diminish other people's success. When I see that, I go, stop. Succeeding is hard, no matter how it happens. Even if you win in the Super Bowl because at the end of the game you got a lucky call or someone gave you a really bad fumble and it helped you win the game, you can get lucky in the Super Bowl, but you still had to be in position to get the break or to take advantage of that lucky moment. So much work gets put in behind the scenes, and I just hate when people try to cheapen winning. You got to be honest about, man, if you win a championship, you worked your butt off. I don't care how. If you win, it's not an accident. Nobody wins a championship on accident. Nobody. You can maybe win one game by accident. You can't win all the way to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl by accident. You worked hard. You put in the work. You deserve it. I hate. Oh, I hate it. I hate when people diminish winning and diminish other people's success. Okay, Peter writes in and says, hey, Zach, you have done a film analysis on most of the 2019 QB draft class. You still have not done one on Daniel Jones. Will we be getting a film analysis on him? Peter, first of all, thank you for writing in. I did do a film analysis of Daniel Jones. I did a mid-season film analysis of him, like a mid-season review. There's a massive list of people I still want to cover that are not named Daniel Jones. I really want to do Phillip Rivers. I really want to do Derek Carr. They're more important to me because I genuinely want to know. I need to know, actually, how good is Phillip Rivers? Can Phillip Rivers actually help the Colts win a Super Bowl? I actually need to know. And because Brett Coleman is someone I really, really respect, and I watched Brett Coleman's video. I talked to him a bunch about it behind the scenes. Brett Coleman did a great breakdown of Daniel Jones. Brett Coleman is a guy I really respect. He nailed it. And I see no reason for me to do my own film analysis of Daniel Jones. It'd get a lot of views, but I would just make my own version of the same thing he already made. Why rehash something that's already been said? I don't see a need to. A really great Daniel Jones film analysis already exists. I think Brett Coleman said everything I would have said. So I just think that I don't know. I just don't see a need at all to do a Daniel Jones film analysis. There are other people that I want to cover that are way more important and way more necessary for me to cover sooner. So, yeah, that is what I have. That is my reason for not doing a Daniel Jones film analysis and why I probably will not do one. Okay, Devin writes in, says, "Hey, Zach, what are your thoughts on Louisville QB McHale, formerly Malik Cunningham? He didn't get talked about this past season, and he had a very solid second season under new coach Scott Satterfield. I heard Scott Satterfield is great. I know you do not like stats, but he was one completed pass away from having the third highest passer rating in college football, and he had the highest yards per pass thrown. Does he look like a potential NFL prospect to you? Thank you." Is he related to Randall Cunningham? I don't know how I didn't research that when I looked him up. Is McHale Cunningham related to Randall Cunningham? That'd be crazy. Is that like his son? They certainly play similarly. I watched some film of McHale Cunningham, and then I very quickly grabbed a pen and wrote his name down, and I added him to my list of quarterbacks to pay attention to if, in fact, we do get a college football season this year. He's not an NFL quarterback. I guess what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if, in fact, McHale Cunningham does not become an NFL quarterback, he's definitely 1,000% an XFL starting quarterback. McHale Cunningham's best ability and best trait is his ability to run. And I want to apologize. I didn't mean to say he's not an NFL quarterback. I think he could be. He's a good passer too. And I'm just curious to follow his development. I want to see. I haven't seen enough to be like, yeah, he's a first round pick. I need to see more film. I watched a game and a half. I was very loose. I was in a hurry. But I saw, like, you can see pretty quickly, talent or not talent. McHale Cunningham, ton of talent. Like, very obvious, very much in your face. He would shred the XFL by running with his legs. He's maybe an NFL quarterback, though. Maybe McHale Cunningham is an NFL quarterback. I need to see more film. I need to see newer film. I want to follow his progression. And I don't think it's fair to him or me for me to go, he's a first-round pick, when I'm not informed enough to say that. But what little I have seen, I go, oh, wow. That's a player we need to pay attention to, because he is really, really very talented and deserves your recognition and your attention. So I'm going to follow McHale Cunningham's development. I would not have done that if you hadn't shared this comment on Patreon. So Devin, who am I saying? Who said that? Devin? Yeah, Devin. Devin, thank you so much for the comment, because you brought a new quarterback to my attention that I was not otherwise going to follow. And therefore, you made the show better, and you made me learn something that I wanted to learn and is important to me. So thank you so much, Devin. Great, great call. Emotep writes in, Emotep, like the guy from Mummy, says, "Hey, Zach, I've seen you make a lot of videos lately on how much quarterbacks should be paid on and on why most quarterbacks are overpaid. I wanted to propose you a solution to that problem, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on whether it's actually a good idea. The solution would make quarterback contracts a separate entity from the rest of the salary cap. The quarterback position is by far the most important position in football, and they should be paid like it. But why should the rest of the team have to suffer with the short end of the stick because of it? In recent years, we've seen time and time again solid quarterbacks stuck on bad teams because they simply can't afford quality support players. In my opinion, the NFL, to have the best product possible out on the field in order to have as many good teams as possible, this would be a good solution. And it would also fix the rookie contract advantage you've alluded to in the past. Thank you for looking at my question with your eyeballs, and keep up the great work." Oh, man. Emotep, I think you mean well. I do not want to separate quarterback salary cap at all. I think it would actually ruin the NFL. Here's why. You mean well, man. You really do. I think that if you're overpaying a quarterback, that's important. That's necessary for the NFL. Here's my fear. Here's how you would ruin the NFL. If you could pay Patrick Mahomes whatever money you want, if you could pay Patrick Mahomes $100 million, and then at the end of the day still have the same amount of salary cap as every other team in the NFL, you would create super teams, because all the best quarterbacks would also get all the best players. A salary cap, and the fact that the NFL has quarterbacks included in the salary cap, it evens out the NFL. If you pay a quarterback a lot of money, it's on you, and it's important that you have to figure out how to build the team around said quarterback. You know, you may have an amazing roster with an average quarterback, and that's actually important. Like, that's kind of necessary to football. What you can't do is you cannot separate quarterback salaries from the rest of the salaries. Here's how it would break the NFL. Here's why that would happen. You cannot treat Mitchell Trubisky the same way you treat Patrick Mahomes. And I know that here's your thought. I think you're thinking, well, like, let's pay Patrick Mahomes $50 million and Mitchell Trubisky $2 million because he's worth $2 million and he's worth $50 million. And I get it. But what happens there is you're treating Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky the same way in relation to the rest of your team. And that can't be accepted. That can't work. Russell Wilson and Josh Rosen are not the same quarterback. Why would they have the same exact effect on the salary cap, which would be nothing? When you make a quarterback a zero effect or 0% count towards the salary cap, you're actually just saying that quarterbacks suddenly are irrelevant and their impact would be all equal. And to be clear, Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky do not have an equal impact on their team's success and on their team's roster. So you cannot separate it out because then you're just putting all quarterbacks on an equal playing field as far as their impact to a team. And I just think it's dangerous because what you don't want is a team to be able to pay Matthew Stafford $57 million a year. Oh, and also get all the best receivers because they can afford that. Then you create super teams. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know how to properly explain this. And if anything, this topic, what it does is help me get my ideas worked through. And maybe down the road, I'll make a more thoughtful topic about why having separate quarterback salaries is bad. Like, you ever seen a comedian who they go on stage and they're working through a set and they're not quite sure how to word it? That's how I feel right now. I'm like, I don't know how to quite word how this is bad or what exactly I mean. But I know that in relation to how it affects your team, putting a bad quarterback and a good quarterback on the same exact scale and saying that they're the same value towards your roster, that's actually a mistake. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know what I'm saying or how I mean that. I do know what I mean, but I don't know how to explain what I mean. And so, Imatep, I'm sorry. I just disagree. And if I'm not saying it in a way that makes any sense, because I'm not sure I am, I'm going to start talking to my girlfriend about it, my dad about it, and try to figure out how to say that properly and then make a topic about it on the next episode. Because I think you're onto something. And I think you have a thought a lot of people have, but I think it's flawed, and I don't know how to exactly explain the right words to say it's flawed. I'm trying, Ematep. I don't know. We'll follow up on that later. With Your Eyeballs writes, and he says, who is a fictional TV character you just want to jump through the screen and punch in the face? Again, With Your Eyeballs writes, and he says, who is a fictional TV or movie character you just want to jump through the screen and punch in the face? Oh, man, for me, this is going to blow a lot of people's minds. I absolutely hate Michael Scott from The Office. I hate him with a passion. I love Jim and Pam. I've rewatched The Office, and I watch it because I enjoy watching Jim and Pam fall in love. And the minute they're married, I actually check out and don't keep watching. I hate Michael Scott. I hate Michael Scott with a passion. He is an incompetent boss. I don't find it funny. I find it really irritating. It makes me angry. If I worked at Dunder Mifflin and Michael Scott was my boss, I would quit in a heartbeat. There is no way I would put up with this nonsense. As a viewer of the show, I weirdly enough just did not find it endearing. I found Michael Scott to be incompetent and frustrating. And I would never, ever, ever want to work in a situation or an environment like that. If my boss was an idiot, I'd want to blow my brains out. It'd be awful. So I hate Michael Scott. I hate him with a passion. I wouldn't punch him in the face because that's rude. I would just quit, and I wouldn't work for Dunder Mifflin ever. And I would actually have a fun time probably telling Michael Scott he's an incompetent idiot and making him cry. He's one of the few people that I think I'd enjoy making cry because he makes me crazy. I hate Michael Scott with a passion. And it's probably the most mean I've ever sounded. Michael Scott is just... Here's the problem with Michael Scott. Michael Scott has no self-awareness. That's the issue, right? He has no idea how his actions affect the people around him. And... it makes me so angry. I would hate to work for Michael Scott. I would never do it, never in a million years. Okay, Arthur writes in. He says, hey, Zach, hopefully your retreat at the lake was fun and revitalizing. It was. I needed it. He says, I might have missed it, but I haven't heard your opinion about soccer yet. I was always a football and basketball guy, but rekindled my interest in soccer last year when the U.S. played in the Gold Cup. And my hometown Seattle Sounders won the MLS a few months later. With COVID-19 shutting down, the NBA soccer has been the only major sport to watch. And I've enjoyed Premier League, Series A, and even MLS since they've done their restart. While I can admit that soccer can have dull periods in the 90-plus minutes of gameplay, watching two world-class teams compete in a close game can be beautiful. What do you think about soccer? Is it just not your thing? Thanks for the great content. SOS is a light during these darker times. Okay. The World Cup's incredible. I watched the World Cup. That's it. That's the only time I watch soccer. I really like that soccer is short. Like, when you watch a football game, you're really not sure how long you're going to be stuck at your TV. Because it could take... Soccer it's 90 minutes and then a little bit of stoppage time. That's it. You know that about an hour and a half, you're done. You can get on with your day. Football's not like that. Football's a lot longer usually. I like that soccer is shorter and gets to the point. And I really appreciate... Like, I watched the MLS game, or the MLS Championship a while back, and then I watched the World Cup right after that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. The people in the World Cup are like so much better. Now, that being said, soccer is just not my thing. At the highest level, I enjoy it because watching pretty much anything at the highest level possible is cool and interesting. Premier League doesn't really do it for me. I think that part of the fun for soccer is the crowd. Like, the World Cup is amazing because you have these gigantic stadiums full of people that are just insanely passionate. And I'm sure that going to a soccer game would be really, really fun. Yeah, I've never been to a Portland Timbers game. The Portland Timbers are my local soccer team. I have no doubt it would be fun to hear, to have a beer and to sing and to chant with the crowd and yell and, you missed. But I've never played soccer, so I don't know the nuance of soccer really at all. I know, like, I'm very limited I barely even know the rules of soccer. I know that ties really irritate me. I hate when people tie in soccer because it's like, can we just figure it out? And I am glad a lot of people like it. If you like soccer, man, I got no problem with that. If you like soccer and that's your thing, dude, great, man. I'm so happy for you. I just know that soccer's not my thing. I really have no interest in trying to learn about it. I have no interest in ever covering soccer or analyzing soccer. The best you're ever going to get is maybe someday I will watch the World Cup and react to a game or two and be like, look, I don't know anything about soccer, but I watched the game and it was fun, and here are my thoughts. I'm not an analyst of soccer, though. I don't know soccer, and I also know that I just don't enjoy it. Soccer's not for me. It's not something I want to invest my time in learning. For example, Formula One is awesome, and I really wanted to invest my time in learning about Formula One racing. I've never felt that way about soccer. I have no interest. And I just don't. Soccer's not my thing. And if it's your thing, I am so happy for you. I'm glad you love it. I just know I don't love it, and I have no interest in learning about soccer even a little bit. And I hope people respect that. And I'm glad you like it. I know I don't. Liam writes in. He says, "Hey Zach, easy question here. Are there any YouTubers or podcasts you watch, listen to, or are a fan of? Who are they, and why do you watch them? Thanks. Love the show. Liam in the UK." Okay, I think like most people, I listen to Joe Rogan. It's not my go-to podcast, but if I'm, caught up on all my other shows and I'm like, I don't have anything else to listen to, my backup plan is always Joe Rogan because there's so many episodes and I can always find a good, interesting episode of Joe Rogan. My favorite episode of Joe Rogan of all time just happened. It's the Post Malone Joe Rogan episode. It's so stinking amazing. I actually wish that Joe Rogan and Post Malone just did a weekly podcast. I would pay so much money to get that, to listen to it. I enjoy the way their minds work. It's kind of crazy, like Post Malone and Joe Rogan, which are in such different places. Post Malone's 25, Joe Rogan's like in his late 40s or early 50s, and they hit it off like they were best friends for life. It's crazy to me. So I like Joe Rogan. It's not my go-to podcast, though. I'll tell you what my go-to podcast is in a minute. My favorite YouTuber, or one of them at least, is a YouTuber named Gus Johnson. I don't watch a lot of YouTube, admittedly. I watch sports, and that's all my time, and I don't watch a lot of stuff. But Gus Johnson is an incredible YouTuber. There's a video he did called Every Cat at 3 a.m. It's gold. It's the best video ever made. Tyler Noah's really funny. And recently, Gus Johnson has been doing longer format, more thoughtful videos about a certain topic. He did one about The Office recently where he basically talked about how the people that were on The Office have never really gotten over it. It's like they're really stuck on the past and they won't move on. That was interesting. Gus Johnson makes great content. His videos about Christmas where he pretends he plays a character are hilarious. My two favorite podcasts are both made by the same person. My two favorite podcasts are called Sacred Symbols and Knockback. And that's about, I only listen to Joe Rogan and those two. I occasionally listen to Brett Coleman's podcast, the Bootleg Football Podcast, because he's so interesting and informative about certain things. I'm like, these are things I'll never research. I watch his podcast to learn about them. But Sacred Symbols is a video game podcast. Knockback is a retro and nostalgia-driven podcast. They're both done by a guy named Colin Moriarty. Colin is a controversial person on the internet. A lot of people hate him. I understand why people hate him. He doesn't help himself very well. I think he doesn't really care what people think, and it does hurt him. I relate to him. He's an introvert like I am. I like Colin. I've actually met Colin Moriarty. He's a good guy. He's got a good heart. He's not perfect. I don't think anybody is, but he does make phenomenal content. So my favorite two podcasts, Sacred Symbols and Knockback. They're great. I love the Game Ranks YouTube channel. They're phenomenal. They do a good job. Before You Buy is the best format for doing a video game review on the internet. For movies, I occasionally check in with YouTuber Jeremy Johns. And then in sports, there are only two people I pay attention to in the content world. I watch Tom Grossi. He's a good friend of mine. He makes great content. And then I listen to and I watch occasionally Brett Coleman because I've come to accept that not only Brett Coleman's a good dude and he's a friend of mine. Brett Coleman talks about stuff that I can't cover everything. And I think at first I felt a need to be competitive with Brett Coleman. I had this like disgruntled feeling about Brett Coleman. I'm like, wait a minute. Brett Coleman makes videos so I don't have to. Like if there's a video about something I can't get to, Brett Coleman does it. That's awesome. Like, he made like some video about a defensive lineman recently for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm like, I'll never make that video. Like we don't really work in the same space all the time. And I think Brett Coleman's a good dude. Both Tom Grossi and Brett Coleman do great work. I respect their approach. And Brett Coleman is, I'm really proud of my film analysis. Brett Coleman's phenomenal what he does though. He really, he's the best. He does a better job at the draft than I do because he's like Brett Coleman around the time of the NFL draft has like 500 players he has notes on, and I'm like I know about the quarterbacks and like two receivers. I don't know about every single player that's going to be drafted. Brett Coleman knows about guys drafted in the 7th round, and I'm like, how do you know about that player? Because all he does is watch film. So I have great admiration and great respect for Brett Coleman. I really like him. He's a great dude. We talk occasionally, those are the things I listen to. Gus Johnson is awesome. Sacred Symbols, Knockback's incredible. And I want to start a podcast of my own that is audio only, that is about movies. And I've got an idea. It'll be quiet. I'm not going to tell anybody about it yet. But it's out there. And if you want a movie podcast someday by yours truly, Zach Schaumler, it's coming in like 2 months. I got a plan. It's going to be fun. Landon writes in. He says, Zach, what did you think of Legend of Korra? Have you seen it or have you planned on seeing it? I got tired of Legend of Korra. I tried to watch it recently. Season 1 was good, and then I fell off and it lost me. I don't watch much TV anyway. I'm so busy. And honestly, the problem with The Legend of Korra, and I don't have some long review because it wasn't very compelling to me compared to Avatar, where Korra... To me, like the star of Avatar The Last Airbender was never Aang. Aang was never the draw. The draw was Toph and Katara and Sokka and the people around Avatar and the world of Avatar. And in Korra, the world is different, and the cast of friends, honestly, are not as interesting. The friendship part was lacking. And so I'll probably go back to Legend of Korra when I have like a lot of downtime and time to kill. But it wasn't as moving to me as Avatar, and I'm curious about it, but I probably won't watch it anytime soon, and someday I'll get to it, but not yet and not for a while. John writes in, John says, if you hadn't played football, what sport would you have been more enticed to play? Basketball. If I was going to play any sport other than football growing up, it would have been basketball. Basketball makes sense to me. I used to play, and even before quarantine, I played a lot, like where I could in the gym and stuff like that. So much of basketball is skill-based. Basketball is cool because the skills you can develop in basketball are done through work ethic. Like, you can practice and develop your skill alone. You can shoot every day for hours if you want to get better at shooting. You can do dribbling drills for hours every day. How do you learn how to dribble with your left hand? You do it a lot. I mean, it's pretty simple. Handling and shooting, that's all about work ethic. And I'll never be 6'5" and be able to dunk, but I know that I could have a good jumper and dribble really well and avoid having, the ball stolen from me all the time. And that's something I was able to do just through work ethic, just for if I dribble a lot and I shoot a lot, that's work ethic. So I think nearly anybody can master and be a solid basketball player that can be competitive in a rec league if you do a little bit of work and if you work hard enough. And the fact that basketball comes down to work so much has always appealed to me. Like, that's why Steph Curry is amazing. Steph Curry is 6 foot whatever, and he's one of the best shooters ever because of work ethic. Steph Curry is not physically dominating. He just works his butt off and has got a really good shot. That's cool to me. So that's what I love about basketball, is that basketball feels like the barrier to entry is lower because you don't need to be like, it really helps if you can just dominate people and dunk on people, and I'll never be that guy. But what I can control is my shooting ability, my dribbling, and I can be great at that if I work hard enough. The final question of the day is from Doug. Doug just only says 3 words. Doug says, best fast food. So, Doug, man, the Popeyes chicken sandwich, the spicy, let me be very clear. The spicy chicken sandwich at Popeyes, phenomenal. Unbelievably good. Perfect. Got pickles. It's warm. It's the mayo. Technically, Panda Express is actually fast food. You can go through the drive-thru. Get orange chicken and white rice. Oh, it's so good. Boba, Thai tea blended is really great. A Whopper, by the way, is a really good fast food burger. It's better than McDonald's. A Whopper's pretty good. Wendy's does have the best hamburgers, though. Dairy Queen has the best fries. Dairy Queen's got those fries that they're balanced, where they're light and they're crispy. They're not too thick. They're just they're on the thinner side. They're really perfect. You get fry sauce at Dairy Queen. You're doing it right. You also get a cotton candy blizzard at Dairy Queen. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Taco Bell, the pineapple whipped freeze, add vodka to that. Actually, you add the whipped vodka. A whipped pineapple freeze with whipped vodka. Incredible at Taco Bell. Taco Bell also has this new thing called the double stacked taco. It's literally $1 for a taco with cheese and then a tortilla on the outside. So it's a taco with tortilla chips on the inside to fill it a little bit. I think make it cheaper too. Then cheese, and then underneath that is a tortilla. So what it is really, you get the benefit of a crunchy taco where you get the crunch, but you also have the benefit of a soft taco where it's not as messy and you can keep it cleaner. It's more filling. It's literally cheaper than a regular taco. The double stacked taco at Taco Bell, it's a great deal. It's literally $1. Regular tacos, I think, are $1.79. These tacos are better. They're more filling. I like them. I think they're awesome. Now, they're terrible for you, but that's fast food, period. Now, in my area, there's a local place called Burgerville. It's a joint, only in Oregon and a little bit of Washington. Regional franchise, I guess is what you would call it. It's amazing. They have really, that's my girlfriend's favorite fast food place, and I don't blame her at all. By the way, if you're in California, In-N-Out fries are terrible. Hate In-N-Out fries. Animal fries are pretty good, actually. I'll say that. But you need to drench it in cheese and mayo and stuff to make it taste good at all. So regular In-N-Out fries are not very good. Although I do want to go. I should go with my girlfriend. There's one 40 minutes away from us, and we keep meaning to go for the adventure. Now, there are 2 places I don't go very often. I've been 2 or 3 times because they're not near me, and I didn't have them near me growing up. Chick-fil-A and Sonic. Chick-fil-A, the Polynesian sauce is incredible. You get a Sonic grape cream slush. Oh, it's so good. Both are outstanding. In college, I went to school in Tacoma, and there was a Chick-fil-A next to a Sonic. and it was my go-to combo to go get food at Chick-fil-A, and then I drink at Sonic. And my go-to, that's a bit inflammatory. It was not my go-to, but I did do it like twice, where I went to Chick-fil-A, then went through the drive-thru or whatever, however you pick food up at Chick-fil-A. Then I went and parked at Sonic and got a drink, and just enjoyed my food at Sonic, eating my Chick-fil-A with a Sonic drink. Phenomenal day. And yeah, that's the best fast food. All the stuff I listed, it's great. And right now, I think that dollar taco at Taco Bell, it's a full-size taco. It's $1. I can't believe it's $1. Probably terrible for you. It's Taco Bell, though. What do you expect? But I will say, I don't know it's going to be $1 forever. And if you want a good value, like you're like, hey, I have $3 and I want to eat a fulfilling meal, go get $3 tacos. What is it called? It is called the double stack taco. It's $1 at Taco Bell. Just me, Zach Shalmer, recommending it to you. It's great. It's good, it's filling, and it's a great deal. So I don't know how long they're going to have that. I'm sure it's a promo. I'm sure in like 2 months they're going to be like, it's now $2.25. So go get it while you can. Well, it's still $1. Guys, my name is Zach Shalmer. Bam! Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been, wow, I've been recording for 4 hours today. I did a 2.5 hour long episode 269. This is an hour and 11 minutes of 270. My name is Zach Shalmer. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Bam, we are